friends, welcome to episode 205 of Storyteller Conclave. This is a show all about helping you run the best tabletop role-playing game that you can, whether you're a new storyteller or dungeon master learning the craft, or an experienced storyteller looking to take your game to the next level. I am Sarah.
And I am Rob.
How are we doing today, Rob?
I have a little bit of a cough, so I'm hoping it doesn't come across. Something tickled me, and I've now have like that drainage thing going on.
Put some honey in your tea.
I will put some honey in my tea, but I have my lozenges as well, just to help cut that edge a little bit. But yeah. It's just since dinner, it's just been right there at the edge of things.
Weather's been a bit crazy.
It really has been. It was 70 something today.
It was like 75 today.
It
we
is
had a
currently
tornado
64.
watch today in the area.
Yes.
Nothing much more than a few rumbles of thunder and some weird spots of rain.
Yeah, but part of the country got hit hard yesterday.
Yeah.
Missouri definitely felt it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that there are people recovering well there. I know there weren't.
Yep.
And that Iowa got hit with some crazy hail.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some pictures of that, and even the western side of the state got hit with some hail this morning.
Yeah.
Hopefully nothing too damaging. But yeah, we hope everybody is doing okay. The weather has been nutty, to say the least.
Yeah, but it always screws with, people's sinuses and stuff.
God, yeah.
Vicky's down with a migraine today.
Yeah, that was not good. That was definitely not good.
Stuff like that. On a side note, we have a sponsor tonight.
We do. We actually do.
Actually, it's the first time we've had the privilege of a sponsorship. So we'd like to take a moment to talk about our sponsors tonight, Sons of the Singularity. They've got a new Kickstarter coming out called Blessed and the Blasphemous. This is a Call of Cthulhu book that takes place in North Africa just before World War II. It's, of course, published by Sons of the Singularity.
Mm-hmm.
I watched some of the promo material for it, and it's really well done. And...
Well, it's Call of Cthulhu, and it's like there's a lot of elements to it.
Yeah,
and I like that it feels creepy.
Yeah, very steeped in the history of the time and the location and such like that.
Yeah.
These guys are Sons of the Singularity. They're actually known for doing a lot of well-researched Call of Cthulhu books.
Very much so.
They have published for other game systems. I did a little research on this. They've done stuff for Dungeons and Dragons 5th Edition, Gumshoe.
Yes.
And their 5th Edition stuff actually also looks like it's dual published for the lore rules.
Yeah, set. I'm not very familiar with lore, but I've heard of it.
But hey, it's definitely out there, and it shows a lot of different cross pollination with their rule systems.
And they're very national. They actually are multinational, I should say. And they produced some of their books out of China for a period of time. And a little known fact, if you go and look into it a little bit, their Sassoon Files book got basically the moment it was printed burned by the Chinese government.
Yeah. There was a setting in there about Shanghai.
Yeah.
And I think they maybe weren't too complimentary of Shanghai and its history.
I think they saw Shanghai, they saw history, they were like, oh, this isn't isn't produced by us, so let's just get rid of this.
Right.
But it was like they got notice that the books were done, and like the publisher sent pictures, like, here's our proof, everything's finished, and like hours later they're like, yeah, remember how we sent you that? They're burned. All of them are gone.
Now the good news is that they were later able
everything was still taken care of.
They got a full refund. They found an out of country publisher for it.
Yep.
And we're able to deliver on that. And that's really the other big thing, too, is that they're very well known for delivering on their Kickstarters.
Very much so.
Even through things like getting their entire print burned by the government.
Which says a lot. Which definitely says a lot.
It does. That's a pretty huge setback, but they persevere through it. So thank you, Sons of the Singularity, for sponsoring us tonight.
We hope your Kickstarter kicks off well. Please check our Instagram links and the stuff. We actually have a couple links within the postings channel on our Discord as well, and our Twitter. Go check it out. Take a look at it. I think it goes live in just a few days.
Yeah,
like we're within the days window, so you've got the preview.
The
stuff.
7th, I thought I saw. Yeah.
My brain is off on dates right now, so I don't want to say the wrong one. But it's listed in our Twitter. It's also listed in our Instagram. There's some photo work up there, but go check them out, please.
Yeah, especially if you're a fan of Call of Cthulhu. It's looking really great.
Yeah, definitely. So,
show tonight
is different. It's a 202, so it's still educational. But one of the things that I brought this up to Sarah is that I wanted to start doing some like workshop ideas where we would live workshop something on the show. Not so much doing what we traditionally do or teaching about it, but where we break that down and show you what it would mean. So tonight, particularly, we're going to be talking about Session 0 prompts. Now, we did a show about this a while back, and I didn't write down the show number, and I feel terrible that I didn't do that. I think I put a link to it in here, but I don't know if it says the link. It doesn't have it in there.
No, this is the last draw. Clean out your desk and be gone by 8.
I'm sorry. But the idea being that we would come to the table. Both of us have no idea, but we both have a idea for a game. We have a system in mind, mechanics behind it, and kind of a theme and setting. And then we're going to each individually then help each other workshop through what that prompt and treatment would look like, how it would be presented to the players. Effectively, at the Session 0, what the Star Wars crawl looks like.
Yeah. How do you turn a jumble of ideas that looks kind of like it could be the start of a game into a cohesive Session 0 that leaves the players understanding what their role in the story is, what the group's role in the story is, what their relationship to one another is, and sets them on the right path from Session 1.
Yep. And funny enough, I had 2 ideas, and then right before the show, literally as I'm getting the pre-roll going, I'm like, I have another idea. Okay, I'm going to do that one, because it's super fresh. I have nothing flushed out about it.
Sure.
And it's pretty raw. And I know you said you wanted me to start so that we could roll right into this.
Yeah, you had a little bit more structured idea of how you wanted this discussion to go, so I just wanted you to start to kind of show me what how your formatting idea went.
I'll let you set up tea, and I will present then.
All right.
So the idea behind...
Once again, we're going to remind you, this is blind. Neither of us have any idea what the other person is going to say.
Not a clue. And especially in this one, I don't think you'd ever would have figured this one out.
Okay.
So the idea that I had behind this one and where the inspiration comes from is Wing Commander and Battleship Yamato. Okay? So spacefaring, military, super carrier.
Okay.
That's out there in the blackness of space.
Okay.
So the idea is that
a little Battlestar Galactica maybe.
Yeah, but not so dark.
Sure.
Not as dark as that. We're like, oh my god. You actually throw some of that honey in mine if you don't mind.
Yeah. Let me pour my tea first, because that's what gets.
Go ahead. Oh. Yeah, just go ahead. Make everyone deaf too. Oh, and now you're just making mistakes.
You're the one that filled the tea.
I always do. So anyways, the whole premise behind this, or feeling behind this, is basically like, okay, we are in the 25th or 28th century. Mankind has come together as a planet and created the unified hegemony of Earth.
Okay.
Right? And we've pushed out into space, but in doing so, now there are factions and groups that have spread to the stars using the various, sublight and light drives that are out there, that have been produced, and are doing things that, are not necessarily what the hegemony wants, or what they'd agreed to. And so the United Earth Hegemony Navy is what's out in space, and their new flagship carrier is the Paladin, and this is the story of the Paladin.
Okay.
And that's the thing. And so the theme is basically like one ship against the odds kind of a thing.
Okay.
But it's a carrier, so it's a whole life on its own. But I kind of wanted also like I go out and come back from space. It goes out, it docks at various places, but it is a carrier. It is a world onto its own, but it can't sustain forever, obviously. Sure. So that's the idea behind this one.
Okay.
What are your questions? So hit me up with the storyteller side questions so we can get this ironed out a little bit.
All right. So big obvious question then is, what is the role of the players here? Obviously, we're looking at a military type setting, so we're probably going to be soldiers of some sort. Or are you looking for more crewmen amidst the soldier lifestyle of more slice of life sort of stuff?
So I'm seeing this as like everyone is part of the military crew. Okay. So you might have pilots, you might have helmsmen, you might have communications officers. You also might have technicians or a medic or even intelligence officers, right?
Okay.
Who are all part of this crew. I wasn't necessarily thinking that we would have like lore masters or like civilians who are there as well.
Sure.
Everyone would be under the umbrella of the Navy that,
Okay.
that this is. So there's a rank and file within it, and everyone has a position within that.
Okay. And then, so along with that, then I presume you're going to be giving us some sort of like military command structure, and that like we will have a commander that will be like, you are our away team.
Correct.
We need you to go handle problem X, Y, or Z.
Sure. Or something's happening on the ship, and you need to pull resources to do this, and these are the
Okay.
people involved. It's the night crew. Like, all of those are available options.
Okay.
Like, I'm not wanting to go to the hijinks level of, like, night crew, on the ship. It's like night crew does what they want. I don't want to go to that level.
Right.
I'm thinking more along the lines of this is more modular in the way that the TV shows tend to be. So you're seeing a snapshot in time. It's not event to event,
Okay.
kind of a thing as well. So that it's very much like we finish this, and then it might be a month later. We might be in dock somewhere and leaving to go somewhere, and that's where the story starts. Or it might be red alert goes off, and you guys are, we are now at battle ready, and something's happening.
Right. Okay.
In media res kind of stuff.
How much this is going to be like action, and how much this is going to be like focused on our characters and such like that?
I think that's going to be a question for the players.
Okay.
Because I could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
So if they want a lot of action, we can lean into the action, and the characters can create action-oriented characters. If they want to go with more of like the action happens, and then you're dealing with what's happening on the ship, and the repercussions that happened there. We could do that as well, or a mix 50-50. Either would work.
Okay.
I think it comes down to kind of like how they're seeing it. I could accept it either way.
Okay. So overall tone of this, I know you mentioned your big inspirations are Yamato and
Wing Commander.
Wing Commander.
Yeah.
I will be dead honest with you. I am not intimately familiar with either of those. I know of them,
right,
in just the sci-fi zeitgeist. But
so think very heroic military defense force kind of feel.
Okay, so we're looking at an uplifting sort of go get 'em bug hunt. We are the big damn heroes.
Yeah, I mean you could look at it from a Starship Troopers kind of point of view as well, but
with less fascism,
with way less fascism and a lot less infighting.
Yeah,
where it's like hey, you need to fight your way up, and then that's the way you gain my respect, kind of a thing.
But presumably it's gonna be us doing big heroic things and being the victors at the end of the day.
Yes,
sort of
very much so.
Not without its trials and tribulations.
Correct. There's definitely going to, and the thing is that death is going to have meaning. Yeah. So like there will be funerals for pilots who die or moments that happen. Things like that will have a deep impact on the story and cause ripples.
Okay.
So.
All right. So what systems were you thinking then?
I was actually thinking Stars Without Number.
Okay.
Because it kind of already gives me a way to build a universe with a good framework and is spacefaring designed.
Yeah, that's very fair.
It's got all the movement and everything. It takes care of all those mechanics. I don't have to make anything up.
That's very fair.
Which are often sometimes the hardest parts. Mm-hmm. I can just literally plop down some pre-created stuff that's already out there, and I'm already done with half of my work effort.
Okay. Now this is just coming from someone who knows Stars Out Number, at least as a relative acquaintance.
Mm-hmm.
Are you worried that the OSR nature of Stars Without Number will undercut your goal of this being a heroic story?
No, because I think there's some dialing that can be done there. In the sense that heroes don't have to die. Heroes can get knocked down, dragged out, things like that. Mm-hmm. At the same time, if a player feels they need to go, and they'll pick up another, because it's a ship. There could be other people in the wing. There could be other things like that. So there are definite ways to handle those kinds of deaths and movement if it fits the story well.
Okay, that's a good answer, I think. All right, and I think my last question as a potential player in this hypothetical setting would be... I had it, and it was on the tip of my tongue, and then it went away. Oh, yes. Are you thinking of running this more episodic or more as a long single plot sort of campaign?
So originally, when the idea hit me, I was thinking very much of this would have a finite run.
Okay.
So there would be an inciting incident that would lead to a couple adventures that would lead to the story that would close the story with the heroic ending.
Okay.
And obviously leave it open to go do more. Like if this adventure, like if hey, do you guys want to go out on another outing? But the ship returns and, there's fanfare and things like that kind of a thing at the end of it.
But it's end of season 1. If we decide to do a
Correct.
season 2, we can renew the show. Yeah.
Correct. And there's information that would lead on to other options, clearly.
Right on.
So,
okay.
And just to, as an idea that that there's a general feeling that there is unrest. Obviously that's why these ships are being put out there. So the question then remains is, what does this generate for us as a prompt?
From the standpoint of how do we boil all of that down into into
couple of sentences.
Into a couple of sentences.
Yeah. This is the hard part.
I would say it's the heroic tale of a military crew aboard a galactic fleet carrier, voyaging out into the unknown to be one ship standing against overwhelming odds.
Okay.
And then I think from there, you can field the questions about, okay, well, is this focused on the characters or the,
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, part of me wanted to flavor it up even more than that, but I like at the same time, I almost want to dial that back and let the players fill in the blanks. Like, what is the threat out there?
Right.
Is it obviously bandits, that are part of some faction that created? Are we dealing with civil unrest? Are we dealing with that? Those are the types of things that would be added. So whatever the stepping into the unknown is, comes back as, okay, what do the players recognize as the unknown? And that could be filled out in many ways by who they are. Like, what's your backstory? Like, how did you get here? Maybe you were a belter. Maybe you were a Mars person. Maybe you were whatever. And you grew up through the unrest and saw the hegemony as the united force that was doing the right thing. At least it was one direction, kind of thing. But I could see players creating those types of characters at the same time as I could see people being like, no, this is the, like, fascist force, but that's not, like, everybody thought it was, and it isn't. Like, this one ship is not the fascist force, Whereas, like, Star Trek loves to do that. Where, like, this is an exploratory ship. We're not a fighting ship, but don't test us. Kind of a thing. Like,
people talk about the Enterprise like it ain't got guns. What do you think it did? Sold them all because it stays well off?
That's fair. It can separate its saucer if it wants to.
Oh, it can, yeah.
But that's the whole thing is that, like, this ship is obviously the flagship to do these types of things, and go out there and not need, like, a destroyer to follow it or some other class. It can handle itself. And my initial thought was, there's some people out there who want to test that. And, like, hey, if we can test this, that'll put an edge against everyone.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that I added in there that I would probably put at the end is, and it's maiden voyage, and there are some people who want to make that voyage a rocky one or not to come back.
Ooh.
Conspiracy. So there's an edge to it of, like, okay, is there a conspiracy, or is it just there's some bad people out there who really just want this to not go well for the hegemony. So
okay.
Not bad?
No, not bad. Not bad at all.
All right. I feel that it's a complete story. I feel it has all the components it needs. I think stepping into Session Zero, there's going to be a lot of lines and veils, especially with people talking about conflict.
Yeah.
Like, we're dealing with a ship. What types of things are not going to be okay? For you guys to have. Like, do you not want me to describe what happens in the vacuum of space when something depressurizes?
Right.
like, don't go into detail, just we know compartment 7 got depressurized,
Mm-hmm.
and that area got sealed off, and that was an engineering wing.
Yeah.
Things happened. Tomorrow there's going to be funerals, but today we got to take care of the problem.
Yeah, and I think a good discussion about lines and vowels is important for all session zeros.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things, like, I never really thought about my own lines and vowels until we started having, like, in-depth discussions of them, and I'm realizing with every passing game session, I have a few.
You do.
Because there have been moments where I've gotten, like, uncomfortable at the table, not enough to X card it, but like, okay, this scene can go on for exactly 2 more minutes,
Yeah, and the good news is that, and I'll say this, as a storyteller, we pick up on our players, and we skirt the edges of things without asking. And I think that does a disservice to the session zero. Because if for instance, like, one of our players does not handle water and drowning, that is never going to be anything that can ever be in a game that they are involved in.
We can have water.
Right.
Nobody can suffer from the water, though, and absolutely big hell no on describing or making drowning noises or anything like that. I told that particular player, I may have water as a feature. It will never, ever be a hazard to you.
Right.
There will never be anything lurking under that will drag you under, anything like that.
Right.
It will be an obstacle to be avoided.
But by not discussing that in the session zero, by just having that assumption or side talking, you are doing a disservice to the other players who might need to discuss the same types of things.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's important that as you learn your players, that you can openly discuss at the session zeros what is going to be avoided and why.
And, the other thing, if I can get up on my soapbox here for a little bit, since we're on topic,
I'll go set it
session
here. Here you
zeros.
go.
All right. I see a lot of online discussions of, like, lines and vowels and stuff like that, where a problem will come up in, like, game 4, and a player will get very uncomfortable at the table, and they're like, I have to quit the campaign now, or something like that. And I'll see a lot of very bad takes online of, like, well, that should have been discussed during session 0. If they had a problem with it, they should have told you that during session 0. Or you told them during session 0 that, this was going to be a thing, so they don't have any right to be uncomfortable about that, or something like that,
It's a very juvenile way of looking at of this or that.
Yeah, so I just want to, like, say to all of our listeners that the comfort of your friends at your table is not something that starts and ends at session 0. It is an ongoing conversation in every interaction, both in game and out of game. And like I said, these are your friends at the table.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are feeling uncomfortable, stop doing what you're doing that's making them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a core integral part of your plot or whatever. I don't care if you discussed it in session 0 and they said they were fine with it, and then, no is a complete sentence.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be like that. Don't be that guy.
And there's a certain sense of understanding that you are hosting something, and when you are presenting something and communicating, you're setting a level of trust. And in that trust, there's respect, there's responsibility, and you have to remember that in that, it's creating an inviting environment that can be enjoyed by all.
Yeah.
And making minor adjustments to your story, or helping others to make minor adjustments to the story, because it may not just be you, to make it comfortable and move through the story is nothing. It is minor. If you can't be comfortable enough to make those adjustments, you need to look at who you are for running stories.
Yep.
And I will be hard on that one. I will stand on that rock and die on that hill.
Yep.
Because it is most important to have that communication and to feel comfortable at being who you want to be in that second skin.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't create that environment to be able to enjoy that, then you are violating the basic components of what role-playing as a group is.
Agreed.
So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All right. Soapbox time is over.
Soapbox time is over.
I think I have a pitch for you.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
I want to throw a few more things at the end of this.
Okay.
So we've got this prompt.
All right, sure.
What do we think the milk run would look like for this?
Oh, the maiden voyage of the Paladin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
because I'm thinking, like, my first thought is, like, I can hear them saying, well, we need to test the engines and, like, go through the first abled tests of the system, right? And that's kind of a thing, but it's going to require, depending on the people, all kinds of different events that could occur.
I mean, I can see a couple different ways of going with this. The first one I'm thinking of is, actually like a training mission,
Like a war games,
a war game. Yeah.
I love the idea.
We're gonna give you a swarm of drones that simulate bandits,
right?
And you need to just repel them. It's no live ammunition, anything like that. It's just
like a show off, if you will.
Yeah, it's just an elaborate game of laser tag. But we're gonna see if the crew of the Paladin can get its crap together and fend off.
Like I'm now thinking of like not McHale's Navy. Down Periscope.
Okay.
Where they like challenge him to get in and torpedo like this makeshift boat that's in a harbor, but he's got to get through like all of this destroyers and shit like that and sneak his way in. Something like that, where this like, this other naval rear admiral is just like, so the Paladin's going out for his first maiden voyage. Let's make it a deal. I'm going to set the war games to that day as well. I think you'll join us on this one. Well, we haven't tested the engines out. Oh, that shouldn't be a problem for you, Captain.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh boy. So we're not only is it our maiden voyage of testing everything, beyond the engineering tests,
but there's the crew of another ship that kind of wants to humiliate us.
Well, maybe not even just the crew. It's the rear admiral who's basically like, you're going to have to defend or do something.
Yeah.
And you'll get your orders. And, it's all digital and everything's going to be out there. So, you're using digital marks and everything.
Mm-hmm.
You will be either the enemy or the friendly, and you're going to have to take care of it. And I think that would be kind of a fun one, too.
Yeah, that'd be really fun. So getting outside of the war games, I think you could definitely do, again, considering this is a milk run, just a little... I'd say one of two things, depending on the tone that your players want.
Sure.
Okay. If you're going to go a little bit more action, a little bit more militaristic and stuff like that, I think getting raided by like some bandits or something like that is always a good way to go. Where they've got maybe a small fleet of fighters. You guys can deploy your own fighters, or maybe they ambush an away team, and you've got if you don't have fighter pilots in your group, obviously that's a thing.
Sure.
Maybe, you set down for just a routine mission for, like, to make contact with a science outpost or something like that hasn't, hey, well, while you guys are out, I know you guys are going out to the frontier, but while you're out there, can you check on Space Post 209,
They're literally just getting up their comms array, and they need some equipment.
Yeah, we got some weird blips from them. Just make sure they're okay,
Yeah.
And you find out that, like, bandits have raided the place. And again, it's just a short little skirmish,
Sets the tone of the space and what's going on out there.
Maybe the crew's okay, maybe they're not,
Yeah.
But one way or another, it's a small incursion that is in a very confined space. That doesn't spread into or link to anything else. It's its own milk run.
Yeah.
Or again, if you're kind of doing this science thing, maybe they make contact with a science outpost, and there's some sort of a anomaly to solve, some sort of maybe an engineering problem, maybe something is broken, and their whole goal is to maybe fix their sensor array or something like that.
Yep.
Depending again, like I said, on the tone that your players want to have.
Yep. No, I like all of this idea. And I think it fits the feel, it fits the beat, and it allows for a lot of adjustment based upon what the players create.
Okay.
Would you be excited to play something like this?
Yeah, I'd be down for it.
Okay.
I'd be down for it.
I guess the last question I would throw into this as a storyteller is, and this is something that just very recently came up in a discussion that I had today, was how do you, from the onset of this story, set the pacing for closure?
How do you set the pacing for closure?
Which is something we don't normally talk about at the beginning of the game.
I think I need you to define that a little bit better for me.
So in some cases, you don't you as a storyteller have an idea of the final battle, right? But your players don't know what that is. I mean, unless you literally land the dragon and be like, "This is the dragon you're killing" in meta, and it flies away, and you're like, "Okay, now we know what we have to do. We have to kill that dragon."
Basil juice.
Exactly. My thought is in something like this, it feels very sandboxy, like it's just going to go on forever. But sometimes it's nice to know that there's going to be a closure. And my thought is with this one, I could literally set it as a leave. Like this is a 1-year tour. Mm-hmm. And so there we go. There's our timeline. It's 1 year.
Oh, I mean, if this is mission based, I mean, the paladin of itself is going to have a mission, right? Go out to the frontier and do what?
Right. Do your service and return.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's the tour of duty? It's 6 months on the front line. Great. You are literally dropping in for this destroyer to replace it and a second one that's being decommissioned. The new one's going to be coming out to meet you in 6 months. You will glide with it for 2 months, for refueling and stuff, and then you will return. There's your mission.
Or if even you want this to kind of be the paladin versus everyone,
right? And that's why I was thinking you could do that out on the frontier.
Is what I'm thinking is you kind of go mouse guard with it a little bit of like, oh, all of our resources are needed for whatever other plot contrivance is pulling them in one direction, but there's something going wrong in the exact opposite direction, this other frontier, and we don't have many things out there. We need you to be our sole presence out in the opposite direction from where all of the rest of our military is.
Yep.
You're not going to have any other support out there because we can't send any other support.
Right.
We're tied up with, I don't know, galactic war or whatever.
Civil unrest, whatever it may be.
You make up whatever contrivance you want. There's aliens or something and we're fighting them.
Sure.
And so you have to be alone out there. And then once, you've got your build up to, okay, we went out there. Maybe we find out that the mission we were sent out to do, there's a twist to it.
It's bigger than expected.
Yeah, the bandits are more organized. Maybe they've come across some sort of an alien weapons cache or something like that. And now they've got, plasma disruptor cannons instead of mass-driven, bullets. And that's causing a problem for us because they can blow holes in our shields now or something.
Yeah.
And now we have to reassess. We have to, whatever. But then we conquer them either through diplomacy or military might or whatever, and we come home, mission accomplished.
Yep.
That's your pacing.
Yep. And it's obvious.
Yeah.
It's an obvious line that is shown.
Sure.
And that's that. I like the idea of obvious lines for situations like this so that people feel comfortable with where the end is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Where the end goal is. So okay, sir. Okay. So,
well, thank you, Rob.
You're welcome. Did you enjoy that?
I did. Yeah.
I hope our audience did too, as well, to kind of tear through that a little bit. So, what is your world and idea?
Well, boy, howdy, I'll tell you. I didn't know you were going to go to space.
Oh, did you go to space too?
I did go to space too.
We don't do a lot of space, so
my scope is very different from yours.
Okay.
I wanted to do something that I hadn't done before.
Okay.
And so as I was brainstorming this, I kept thinking, like, how do I come up with something unique? How do I blend 2 genres together or 3 genres together and make some Frankenstein's monster of space fantasy, And, like, I just got to thinking, like, okay, well, what if I did, like, I've never done a Western story and I've never done a space story. I mean, other than, like, Battletech, like, but I didn't really run Battletech. Like, how do I put Western in space? Oh, no, that's just Firefly. Okay. Well, how do I do, and I combined about 2 or 3 things all in my head, and I kept coming up with existing IPs, and I didn't want to do that. And I started thinking to myself that, like, my strength does not lie in making things convoluted. My strength lies, as you so succinctly put it to me in one past discussion, that forever lives rent-free in my head, that I am not the Beef Wellington storyteller that layers flavor upon flavor upon flavor upon flavor in a 45-minute contrivance of, before it ever hits the oven of pre-prep.
Yeah, you're not the Masamune sword maker who does 1,000 presses on a blade.
Right. I am hammer go bonk.
That's right.
Okay.
Big heavy thing.
I am my cuisine is steak and potatoes.
Yes.
Steak is just a slab of beef.
Mm-hmm.
Potatoes are just tubers that
Yep.
you stick in the oven for a little bit.
Yep.
But if you season them just right, if you cook them just right, at the
Yeah.
right temperatures with the right seasonings and
Yep.
the right sauces to go with them and whatnot,
And present them well.
and that simple slab of beef turns into the best thing you've ever tasted.
It is a true meal.
And that simple lump of starch that you have pulled out of the ground, the pomme de terre, with the right amount of butter, sour cream, chives, bacon, a little bit of cheddar cheese.
I shouldn't be getting hungry. Please continue.
becomes delectable.
It does.
And
it
that's
does.
where my strength lies, is
All
turning the simple into something exquisite.
So tell me of this meat and potatoes.
We're just going to space.
Okay.
So the basis of the story is
Okay.
that we are a deep space, small, independent deep space exploration vessel.
Oh, okay.
Okay. The feeling I want to go for is somewhere between Star Trek and Firefly.
Okay.
Okay. I'm looking for the small crew of an independent vessel.
Okay.
Mechanics of maybe Firefly, maybe something along the lines of Farscape, though I'm less familiar with that property.
Okay. I mean, I can see it. I see what you're going for.
But that sort of mechanic, okay.
Little ragtag, but mostly just light.
Yeah.
People doing multiple jobs.
Yeah.
Because you don't send 100 people on a ship.
No. And again, it's independently owned.
Right.
So unlike your story, this is the story of an independent owner and operator.
Mm-hmm.
Someone owns the ship.
Would it be one of the players?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably the captain.
I mean, they owned the ship, and I'm doing that in quotes, as in they probably owe someone money for it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's the contrivance on that end of it.
And that may be the main contrivance for why you make the certain choices is, to maybe because I don't want it to turn into like, Mech Warrior Mercenaries where the bank is constantly chewing on you and you have to make life or death choices on that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be that. I don't want that to be the driving conflict.
It is the subtle hand on the shoulder of the entire party. When all else fails, why are we doing this? Because we have to pay off the ship and get gas in it.
Yes, precisely.
Yeah, it's less the ship needs to be paid off. It's we've owned the ship, but you still have to put gas in it and maintain it.
Yes,
and
exactly.
that is an ongoing cost.
Now, where the Star Trek aspect of this comes in is that I'm also looking for, again, that sort of exploration style of play. Okay.
Sure.
I very much want, to seek out new life and new civilizations, etc. Maybe not from the Star Trek aspect of every alien you come across is just a human in a rubber mask.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with Stargate Universe...
Yes, where most people are human in general.
Well, no, not the Stargate universe, as in the broad, umbrella that covers the Stargate properties.
Oh, sure.
I mean the actual proper show, Stargate Universe. It was
Yes.
short-lived. It only
Yeah.
had like a season or two.
Yeah.
They did encounter some aliens.
They
in
did.
there.
Yeah.
And none of them were like sentient humanoids.
Mm-mm.
Or maybe one of them was, but they never spoke the same language.
Sure.
It was not at all like the previous aliens I've ever come across.
Sure.
And that was the big thing. Like it was alien with a capital A.
Okay.
It was strange. It was outlandish. It was like nothing we'd ever encountered before.
Almost Cthulhian. In the sense that it's not weird and crazy, but weird in the this is not understandable.
Yeah, we can't conceive of this because it's another world and another civilization, and they're not just humanoids in rubber masks that will mysteriously start speaking English to us,
Right.
in ways that we can understand. And now we're going to use this as a political metaphor,
Right.
No, this is like, okay, so an alien virus is eating our science officer.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that, but it's also as difficult as that.
Okay.
Those are the sort of challenges I'm looking for. I want to lean into the main conflict being interpersonal conflict on the on the ship.
Okay.
Of you're all floating through space in the same tin can. Whether you like each other or hate each other, you are the ones you have to depend on each other with.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one of the major drivers there, but the other major driver is space does not care.
Oh, okay.
And that's it. Space does not care. It is not here for your survival. It does not want you to survive. It doesn't want you to die. It just doesn't care.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So death is imminent.
Let's say imminent. Now, see, this is where.
So what mechanic system are we using? Let me ask that question.
Okay, so there's 3 of them.
Oh Lord.
Well, no, it's all based on what the tone the players want.
Aha.
Okay. I figure we can either go heroic and lighthearted,
which would be
Savage Worlds. It's something
Sure.
I'm comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the wild die as a mechanic, which makes you succeed more often than not. It's light. We can even play with the Heroes Never Die special rule if you guys really just want to tell a cool story of spacefarers doing stuff, having adventures out in the black.
Sure.
If we want to go a little more simulationist, a little more maybe gritty, we could go with Traveler.
I was literally gonna thought that was where you're gonna go.
Yeah. It's not a system I have a lot of experience with, but I'm sure by the grace of Seth Skorkowski, friend of the show, we can get through it.
No, I think it fits very well with the design and what you're looking to do, and the general grittiness and I would say unforgiving nature that space is.
Well, don't go too far there because you haven't heard the third system.
Okay.
Mothership.
Ooh, I mean that's simple.
Now, if you wanted to really lean into the stress mechanic of you are 6 people in a tin can in the blackness of cold, hard vacuum space, surrounded by goddess knows what alien viruses and bleak rocks with no water or plant life as you're slowly starving to, we can play Mothership.
Yeah.
I'd be more than willing to give that a shot and lean into the horror of space being cold and black and uncaring.
Yeah, that definitely puts it in that direction. Okay. So let me throw some things out there. You said you want to lean into the interpersonal conflicts. Mothership doesn't, as a system, help you in any way with that, and understanding what this player feels or the direction that they're taking. So you're kind of left at a disadvantage there, except for what the players iterate to you.
Sure.
Some players are not very creative in generating those things, and there are some systems that are more forgiving about creating bonds and secrets and things like that help with some of those leverages. What would you do for the players to help alleviate some of the stress in creating that during your session 0? Or lean into what you're asking.
Yeah, so I think one of the big things I might give a try to is actually having everybody kind of create their characters in a vacuum. In that you are not going to be able to necessarily discuss them with anybody else.
Okay.
Or at least keep that discussion limited.
Sure.
As it is a ship crew, I would like, and maybe just by drawing them, or maybe having people kind of sign up for them, like over Discord or something like that, have positions, a ship medic, a pilot, an engineer, a navigator, a security officer, and a captain. That's 6 positions right there.
Sure.
Have everybody just pick one and just make a character.
Sure.
And that way, you don't know who you're going to kind of get stuck in with. And so, therefore, you may just actually have personality conflicts, We saw this very much like in my current campaign, where, you and that other character were just, instantly butting heads during session 1.
Yeah.
Because you believed in the sanctity of life, they did not.
Yep.
It would generate things like that. I worry that it would create tension between players, though.
That's the one thing that I was just saying, is that you're kind of artificially starting everything at a agitation point.
Yeah.
And adding to that.
So, I mean, I guess the other thing is, I mean, trust your players. To a certain extent, I mean, encourage them to work on bonds and such like that.
So I would definitely say then part of your prompt needs to kind of address that component of it, that's the meat and potatoes of the story. So that when you're reading it to the players, or the players are looking at it before the session 0, that they know what they're getting into. Understanding that this is going to be more about that aspect of things because it is a big part of it. It is meant to be heroic, but heroic in the sense that you are all forced and or negotiating with each other to survive.
Right.
And create that.
And keep in mind that, like, interpersonal conflict is not something that needs to necessarily be a major driver. From the standpoint of, I don't want every game session to be you guys just at each other's throats.
Correct.
Like, that's not... You still have to be a cohesive ship crew. There's only 6 of you, you know? And so creating, just some bonds and some flaws that may grate upon one another. I think this is another great system. Like, it's one of the reasons why Savage Worlds always comes to mind, is because I think hindrances are just a great petri dish to brew that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Your characters come with automatically, tied in flaws that generate friction in the story, and from that, good moments happen. So... the dependence on conflict like that will largely be dependent upon the tone we want to set. If we're playing Savage Worlds, hindrances are really all we're going to need. If we're playing Traveler, I don't remember if Traveler has its own system for hindrances or anything like that.
I believe there are some in there. Because if I remember correctly...
God, it's been a while since...
I think, if I remember correctly, Traveler's the one with the career...
Yeah,
so that
definitely complex career paths there.
Yeah, that has a certain sense within it as well. That's going to create its own level of conflict.
But I don't ever want that to overshadow the whole, like, space exploration, part of it. I don't ever want that to overshadow the idea that you guys have a mission. It's a self-imposed mission, but to go out and find interesting things out there, to chart uncharted parts of space, to find black holes and various other anomalies and whatnot, to set down on planets no one's ever been on, grab soil samples and whatnot. Maybe there's other things out there. I don't know if we're going to include alien life or not. And
I feel like the image that I'm getting from this is very much like the land run from St. Louis back in the day.
I don't know.
So the Great Land Grab of the United States, when when people could basically rush out and stake a claim.
Yeah.
I feel that there's a sense of that would be really good for this story, where it's like maybe the onset, the inciting incident, isn't something so. It puts it almost in the fledgling, like the. Humanity hit a certain point where jump travel got figured out. Figure out your contrivance. Maybe these gates reactivated.
Yeah,
like someone did something. Some scientist, give it a name, figured out how to reactivate these ancient gates. And now gates have lit up all over the place, but they're completely unmapped, uncharted. Nobody knows anything about it. And it comes right down to it. Nobody has the immediate resources to do this. Instead, corporations are trying to vie for that mapping and that information, and they're willing to pay for data.
Maybe. I kind of had a different inspiration for it.
Okay.
My main inspiration was our friends group, yourself included, used to play a lot of Elite Dangerous.
Yeah.
And my favorite ship in that, and still to this day, my favorite ship is the Diamondback Explorer.
Yep.
Now, unfortunately, it was a one-seater.
Yep.
But man, that thing was a jump drive with wings. And it was nice just to jump 70 light years at a time. 12 times in a row on its fuel tank.
Yep.
and then scoop enough off of a star to refuel it and do it 12 more times.
Right.
Now, in that setting, you have what's called the bubble, which is essentially what civilized space is.
The known civilized space.
Yeah, known civilized colonized space. Sometimes it's just space stations, sometimes it's surface colonies, it's a mix of both, whatnot. But that's where your political influence is. Everything outside of the bubble is frontier. It's no man's land. Nobody owns it. Most of it is just dead rocks or whatever, but I mean, there's 400 billion stars in our Milky Way galaxy. Even with multiple thousands of players making concerted efforts to make giant exploration runs and stuff like that, I think it's less than 1% of Elite Dangerous's map has been uncovered.
Yeah.
And there were moments where I was floating out in the black, somewhere near the Horsehead Nebula, and just thinking to myself, like, God, I wish someone were in this ship to share this with me. Just to set down on a planet and just look at this cool, alien life with me. Just to experience this and, venture out on our own. And I don't want to do, like, the whole corporate overlord jump gate thing, because that...
No, my thought...
It's a tether, I think the big thing I really want as a feel is that it is the 6 of you, and that's it.
I was thinking more along the lines of, where does the funding come from to go out and want to come back?
Yeah, okay. I mean...
Because I like the idea...
Exploration data.
Right, and that's my thought is that's it would sit within the layers of the prompt. That, like, corporations are paying top dollar to know what's out there so that they can go either get the resources or use that information or just navigational routes.
Yeah.
Like, is this a faster route to get somewhere else because it goes by this and this, which allows them to fuel, You've got, trip companies who want cool landscapes that they can take their visitors past, So there's the money side of it of, like, why are we doing this? And then you also have, like, just the science side of it of, like...
I realize why I don't like your idea.
Okay.
Capitalism.
All right. So removing the capitalism.
Mine is a story about freedom. Yours is a story about capitalism.
That is fair. So, okay.
Thank you for helping me work through that.
But that's what this is about.
Yeah.
Okay, and then expressing that within the plot so that when a player comes to you and goes, "Why am I doing this?" It's because I want you to feel the joy. I want you to all have at least the one common thing that leads all of you together is you want to step into the unknown where no one else has gone.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
All of you, regardless of why, like maybe you're running. Maybe you're wanting to run out there. Maybe you're wanting to hide. Maybe you just don't want to be around anybody, but you'll handle 5 other people, and that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
But whatever it is, you want to go into that black.
Yep.
As far as you can.
That's the one key thing you need for your character.
Is that blackness.
Yep.
You're like, you come back because fuel and food is necessary.
Or do you?
Well, I mean, that all depends on what you find.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, can we live off these? I mean, technically, we could all become vegans. I need beef. Okay, I hate you because you're making me go to a station. But that's the thing. There's your inter-party conflict of like, hey, can't we just go get a box of strawberries? F you. That's 1,900 light years from here.
Yeah, exactly.
Grow them yourself. On what? This paper plate?
Right. But, hey, I mean, an onboard hydroponics lab or something like that
depends on how big the ship is.
Yeah.
And that's the other part of it is if you make the ship just large enough to be an exploration ship, not a survival ship.
Yeah.
Now you've
got that tether where they kind of have to...
Yeah, like you can get oxygen, you can get fuel, you could probably even get water. And like there's dry rations that even if you were in the blackness of space and couldn't even find something to eat, you guys could probably survive for several weeks on like munchie strips.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, you've got to come back because of something.
Or your encounters are things like we're out in the blackness and we come across one other ship on long-range sensors.
Yeah.
And they're a colony ship. And you're like, oh, snap. You know what colony ships have, guys, right? Stocked galleys.
Yeah. Everybody says something different.
Right.
Bathroom, a shower, like
girls.
Girls, yeah. But everybody has something different, and like even.
I'm sorry, my beloved, my love of my life, the apple of my eye, posts in the live chat. Welcome to the Beef Station Meaty McGlizzy RZ0420.
Oh, jeez. All right, that's fair. So, what is the prompt now that we generate for this?
Are you asking me? Because I answered that one for you.
So I would say, based upon what you're saying, I would almost make your first statement almost poetic.
Okay.
Because again, it's very hopeful. So something like, "In the darkness of space is the only place you find comfort. And through that, you've found 5 others with you. Your ship is your home, it is your job, and it is your tether in that darkness." This story is about 6 explorers who agree to scour the unknown paths of space outside the civilized bubble, searching for life, adventure, and unknown space, despite their misgivings, mistrust, and misunderstandings.
Okay, Rob, okay.
Because you're not saying you're giving them all of the pieces that is the narrative. You're handing it to them in a chunk.
I'm gonna rephrase one thing.
Okay.
And I really like your poetic opening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I immediately went to Star Trek, like, how do I open with a poet's quote, almost?
I would say the blackness of space offers you nothing. It offers you no connections. It offers you no hassle.
Mm-hmm.
It makes no demands of you. It offers you nothing and allows you the freedom to make something. But the blackness of space also offers you nothing. It offers you no air.
See,
it offers you no food. It offers you no water.
See, I immediately go to cinematics.
It offers you no warmth.
Yeah.
And so it is in the blackness of space that the only thing that you have is your freedom and the 5 other crew members of the hoplite.
There you go. Yeah.
And we go from there.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that. Because
it's a double-edged sword at that point.
Yeah.
It's also this welcoming tabula rasa that you can craft your own story within, but it also offers you nothing to survive with.
So riddle me this to add on.
Sure.
So I would say that, like Mouse Guard,
mm-hmm.
I would ask people at the beginning to put in, what is your goal with this
mm-hmm.
adventure? What is your character's drive? Like, your motivation?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Have that big and bold on the character sheet.
The one of my main goals would be with this story would be to have it be very player driven.
Very much so.
I would go very light on plot.
Mm-hmm.
I would offer you guys problems.
Sure.
I would not have solutions in mind necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see there being a big overarch. It's because there's nobody out there. There's no evil empire to overthrow. You're not trying to save the world. It's not a story of get the MacGuffin to beat the bad guy. There's none of that. There's just the blackness of space and whatever complications and explorations and encounters you come across and what you as a crew decide to do about them and the story you guys want to forge on your own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I like it. I like it a lot. I think you give that. I think your initial milk run
mm-hmm.
Would probably be something that, again, opens up the doors to that exploration. Like maybe the first initial jumps are just that, where it's just like, we're going someplace specific, one step beyond. Like, you're putting your toe in the water, if you will, and seeing the horizon that isn't actually horizon, right? You're charting the edge of the map, and because you're charting the edge of the map, the riches that are there that are just off the edge are enticing. And that's what pushes it. So the milk run is that simple start point of like, and again, it doesn't have to be like a corporate person that presents this thing to it. It could even be like someone who's just like, who's I see a very jolly, down-to-earth, belter kind of person who's just like, hey, I know you just got a group together, Captain, but I kind of have a question for you. There's some guys that are saying that this area space is completely uncharted, but there's at least a star out there to scoop from. I don't know why they're not doing it, but I got word that there's some decent rocks out there that we could get into. What do you say you go take a look for us? Stretch your legs a little. Push that envelope.
Yeah, sure.
And you push out there. Some things happen. Some moments occur.
Turns out there is a ship that's gone out there before. Another mining vessel looking for rocks. And they've become disabled.
Yep.
Nothing too critical. I mean, the crew's not... Well, I don't know. Again, depending on
how it feels.
Maybe if we're playing Mothership, maybe they are, a very disabled ship, and we're going to do an EVA in spacesuits into hard vacuum to salvage amidst the wreckage of the no survivors mining vessel,
and recover some things that you even need.
Yeah, or maybe if this is a and avoid falling into the same fate. Maybe if this is a lighter hearted thing, if we go with the Savage Worlds or maybe the Traveler, maybe they're just out of fuel.
Yeah,
and they just need a little. Just let us siphon off your reactor. Give us a jump start, essentially, for an hour. And...
we can drift to that star.
and we'll scoop from there. We're just in the doldrums right now. And we just need a push.
We're getting pulled back toward the belt, and we're just going to be dead like they are. Get us out beyond that.
Yeah.
Even if it takes us a month, we got food and resources.
Exactly. You make some friends. They trade you some provisions as thanks, and
maybe even give you a little data,
and you float on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of a perfect thing. And then you make it back, you do your dump, you get just enough for your fuel and a little extra, and you're like, hey, well, you stretch your legs once, there's always more to see.
Yeah. You guys, did admirably about there.
Yeah.
Why don't you take a look at this prospect for me too while you're out there? No rush. You can get back to me whenever you are. So if you're taking 2 or 3 other jumps out there, also, but swing back this way if you give it a look.
Yeah, and just have that touch base, that you've got a reoccurring connection point, and then you can always bring others in, like a strange comm signal comes through.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you've got another guy who's just like, hey, I heard you guys might be out in this space.
That's the spirit, yes.
And now you keep pushing the envelope,
yes.
You find probes and other things.
Yes.
No, I think that's a great way of doing it, and I think that creates a comfortable plot structure. I guess the second question is how long do you feel that this would run?
Oh,
I could see this dying on the vine as time goes on. But...
The problem is that unless player motivation keeps it going, and obviously I have to drop some things in there to give you guys complications to look into or avoid or handle or whatever,
right?
And whatnot. I think this one has a short shelf life. So I think we're gonna do a quick little run with it. Tell some little vignette stories. I see it being very episodic. Maybe 12 game sessions at the most.
Okay,
just enough to have some fun, have some adventures, get some flavor, but then kill it before it gets stale.
Yeah, I almost feel like you might want to have the players create something about them that creates their finish. So maybe one guy is just trying to hide long enough until his warrant wears out.
Right.
He's trying to stay in the dark of space, back to Elite Dangerous, till his numbers go back to okay.
If I can make it to April 18th, 2437.
Right.
I am golden.
I'm golden. Maybe somebody else needs money. Maybe somebody else is looking to find a specific thing. Maybe it's just paying off the ship. Maybe it's, something else. But the idea is that you've got closings.
Yeah.
And a reason to come back, even if it's not the whole crew, but it's enough that, like, hey, we're losing 3/4 of the crew and we're going to have to come up with a new crew. Okay, that's the end of the story when that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I like it. Okay. I like that a lot. Feels good to be able to walk through this. And I'm going to say it. I feel like this is what I would like to... I would love to see this in the Discord more. I would love to see people workshopping and working through their stories like this, where they're bouncing these ideas around. They're able to be malleable and understanding. And then post Session Zero, as they see complications come up, like... I could see a lot of lines and veils being generated and being questioned within years. And I think we had one of our listeners put up a really good link to a document that goes through lines and veils. You can present to your players. There's been a number out there, but this one was very complete.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a great way of looking at it. And I think things like that are necessary, especially if you've got disparate people coming to the same session. Maybe they've been in other games, but maybe not together. That helps even it out and have check boxes instead of talking about it.
Yep.
Because they may not feel comfortable talking in front of each other, but as a storyteller, having that come to the table, be like, hey, I see here that everyone agrees that we will not eat babies.
Right.
Great. Thank you. We're not eating babies on this one, kind of a thing. So I think those kinds of tools prior to the Session Zero help with being able to open those doors and talk about them. So, no, it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
I like this.
Yeah.
I like this. We've got a few more workshops like this, ideas that we're going to be like doing different levels of this coming up. So hopefully you guys enjoy it too.
We got to get to these questions.
We have some good questions. Some of
really
this are link back, so we'll go through. So Nevim has a bunch of questions, starting with how long should a Session Zero last?
Until it's done, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a set time. I think you should try to keep it concise because people's attention spans tend to be kind of short, but like in our Session Zeros we go through character creation and whatnot. I mean they can they're basically, if they're a full day's session.
Yeah. I would say, at least from my perspective, a Session Zero you should feel as the storyteller that at the end of the Session Zero you are ready to write what you need to for your milk run.
Yeah.
That you've got all the pieces you need, whether the players are completely done with their characters or not. I think can be done between. That kind of stuff can happen, but that you feel that the group has a cohesion, that they understand the setting enough that you can run the milk run to get them comfortable into it.
Yep. So however long that takes.
Yes.
That's how long it should be.
Yep, exactly. And I will flat out say, I've seen people who've needed 2 Session Zeros because either people don't understand the system and they need a little more help with that, or when you presented with the players, suddenly the setting kind of shifts and you have to kind of come back at it with them and say, okay, let's try this a little differently.
Yeah. And I think there's also a variable sort of thing, like depending on how complex your setting is.
Yeah.
Like for instance, Sean is running Nova Praxis, where honestly I wish we had remembered that Altered Carbon was so close to his setting, the show on Netflix, because honestly I'd have just told everyone to just go watch Altered Carbon. That's the game we're playing, and you can, a lot of the terminology is like 1-for-1 even. They refer to them as sleeves. They call them stacks instead of mindsets, but that's, again, it's just a quick little terminology change, but it functions basically the same way, but it is a pretty complex setting. There's a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of like technology that kind of changes how society works and whatnot. But that takes a lot more time to kind of explain to people than, like, your soldiers in the Roman Legion. Okay, no, that's the whole pitch.
Yeah. And the other thing that I would say to that is, if you are doing a very sandboxy game, where your framework is way more open, with how the story is going to be presented, it does make it difficult stepping into a Session Zero because the players don't necessarily have a clue of what the direction is.
Yeah.
So now they're going to ask a ton of questions, and it's definitely going to... I mean, that's how a lot of this went for me, was that stepping in this is like, okay, so who are we in this universe? Well, you can be whoever you want to be. Okay, that's... That's not helpful. I need a little bit of direction.
Right,
You're giving me a little bit of anxiety here. Like, I need a minute.
I do the same thing with open world sandbox video games. I avoid anything labeled a sandbox now except for Minecraft. And even Minecraft, I play with mods that have a quest book in them and a goal and a progression, because you can do anything is that's too big. No.
Yeah. So the more concise you come in with your story to present it, and the more you can get to your Star Wars crawl, that it's just a few lines.
Yeah.
Allows the players then to step into the world and look around a little bit, but still have a focus point.
Yeah.
And I think that always helps with cutting down the time on a session 0.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot less questions, but it is a lot more effort on your side. So
what topics must be covered in a session 0? The setting,
mechanics,
the mechanics, the rule system you're using, the character's role in the story.
Yep.
Who are you and what are you doing?
Yep.
Lines and vowels.
Yep.
Any sort of limits your players have as far as the content of the game goes.
And the basis of the story, not necessarily how they interact with the story, but like outside of the characters, what is the basis of this story?
Yeah, sure.
What is happening? Because there might be a lot of history, there might be a lot of events, but this is the point in time we're coming into, and where the characters sit.
Yeah, the core conflict, the drive. And I would say lastly, the bonds between the characters is important to kind of at least get the groundwork for. A lot of that'll happen organically during gameplay, but who knows who is whose twin brother, who went to the academy with you, etc. Where do you guys all know each other? Why are you a group when we start session 1?
Yeah, and sometimes the system will help you with that, but more times than not, I think it's important that storytellers gift their players that initial thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So...
how do you incorporate session 0 discussion in the middle of a campaign? For example, a campaign started a while ago without a session 0.
Pauses are always necessary.
Yeah.
Just check, do the same check. Is everybody having a good time? Do we need to adjust characters? Like, don't... I hate reading DM Academy where people are just like, I have a player who wants to switch who wants to switch classes, and I'm thinking they should just create a whole new character at that level. Don't.
Just
shift.
Just let them change.
Just change. There's literally nothing that's going to hurt anything.
We have changed iterations of our characters 3 times at this point in my game. 1 because we started off in D&D 5th edition.
Yep.
1 because we converted them over to Savage Worlds. And 1 because after we finish your short story arc, we respect our characters because we didn't understand Savage Worlds going into it. And we all made blind choices.
Yep.
And so now that you've had a few game sessions, you understand your characters, fix what you don't like.
In mine, we went from 3.5 to 5 to now stepping into Blades in the Dark.
Yeah. So what do you do in that instance? Well, but yesterday you could cast this spell, but no, suddenly... No. You could never cast that spell.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. What happened, and what goes forward, and you just don't address the changes. If that person changes from rogue to druid, they've always been a druid. But he backstabbed. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what he did last game session.
Yeah.
There was a heroic fight and you won. And now he's a druid. That's it. That's all you need to address.
If you want to do some story around it, by all means.
Sure.
But the thing is that don't make it a complicated thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be complicated.
Yep.
So, and with session 0s, especially if you feel that it is necessary, if something tells you you need to have a session 0, have a session 0.
Yep.
Don't wait. Don't pause. Go through that feeling. Communicate with your players, especially if you think it's something like, hey, I would really like to make sure that we are all on the same page about the theme.
Yeah.
Because as a storyteller, you might be like, hey, I was kind of thinking this was not going to be slapstick, and you guys are trying to treat this like a slapstick. Like, when I presented the story, I wanted it to be really heroic, and you were righteous people doing the right thing. And they were like, yeah, but this is a lot of fun, and I kind of need this.
Sure.
And then you go, okay, well, I got to do a little bit of rewriting, but let's okay, if everybody feels that way, let's go that direction. Because
Yeah.
it's a reset for you too.
I wanted to pull the Heroes Never Die special rule. I wanted to introduce lethality essentially into the storyline, and you guys were all like, not feeling it. I kind of like not necessarily being able to die mechanically, because it just takes that, like, it turns it from a survival story into a character story when you don't have to worry about dying, you know?
Yep.
And we can focus on our characters and our characters' motivations and whatnot. And like, okay.
It's no longer tactical.
I respect that. That's fine. Yeah, absolutely.
The hit points don't matter. You know, they do matter in the sense that it becomes tension, but not like anything more than, oh, I'm going to go down. Okay, what happens next in the story?
Right. I'm more interested in the, if you'll pardon the terminology, because it's directly applicable to your favorite game, the dramatic wound.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Regardless of the actual physical damage. Like, I'm not endangering your life, but how does your character deal with the fact that they just got stabbed?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I always find that interesting about D&D is hit points don't actually equate to wounds.
Yeah.
They equate to the amount of stress your player can take from in an aggressive way.
Yep, it's combat endurance, and it's actually only the drop, the drop, or the hit that drops you to 0, that is the one that landed.
Right.
Yep.
That's it.
So Nifty Hat asks, my group plays pickup games and works with limited time. What are some good strategies for streamlining Session 0 stuff whilst trying to preserve an inclusive table? I think one thing that worked very well for Sean when he was trying to get his Nova Praxis game together, because there was a lot to absorb, and he's got 6 players, I think. 6 sounds right. One of them wasn't able to show up because, unfortunately, he got food poisoning really badly.
Yeah.
But we've got 6 players in the game, so there's a lot to go through, a lot of characters to make, a lot of bonds to talk about, character concepts and whatnot. He kind of did his Session 0 in, like, little spurts, essentially, where he would get on Discord, and whoever had time to just jump in a chat room with him and just voice chat could workshop things. He was constantly drip feeding information out to us on Discord of like, hey guys, look at this for inspiration. Hey guys, look at this. Hey, I put together a character guide. Read it over, give it some thought so that you've got all this pre-work done before we go into Session 0.
And I like that. I think that's a great way to do it. I think the other way, especially if you're doing pickup games, if I'm reading that correctly in the way that I'm thinking about it, again, having a very concise idea of your story so that when the players look at the crawl, they know exactly what's going on. And that way, there's never a point of, it cuts down the amount of narrative questions that come into play, and then they know the boundaries of their exploration that they can make with their character.
Yeah.
Hey, I need you all to have, this is going to be a group conflict. This is going to be an explorer's thing. You guys all have, hope filling your hearts, but you have contentions about each other and whether or not, someone else can pull their weight, or be able to handle you or handle each other. Okay, great. Make sure that you've got goals and bonds with at least one other player in the group, and that you all respect the captain at some level. You may not outwardly respect him, but they're the end authority.
If he says jump, you may not ask how high, but you're gonna jump. You may bitch about it the whole time,
but you're gonna
jump.
Right. And that's just the way it goes, because deep down you respect the fact that the whole reason why you're here on their ship is the word "there" and "ship" are next to each other in sentence.
Yep.
So, mutiny is not an option.
Right. Yeah.
Which is the thing. So having that concise level instead of sandboxing definitely makes it a lot easier, because then players can just ask the simple questions before you jump right into things.
Agreed.
So Rook is another one of our listeners and threw a couple questions in here. Thank you very much, Rook. Is there an effective way to have a quick narrative choices presented in a Session 0? to have quick narrative choices presented as F-Zero. Basic choices to establish backgrounds, but not utilize mechanics. If you've ever played Mass Effect 2 at the beginning of the game, that lets you simply choose some important narrative choices to establish a background, even if you haven't played one. But something to that effect for a brand new story. Yes, actually, there are a couple systems that do this. And I want to say... Oh, God. I know that there are at least 2 PDF books on Drive-Thru RPG that I've seen that are like $1 or something very small that are genre specific, but not setting specific. Mm-hmm. And it literally is. It's not even a roll. It's just a select something from here, select something from here, select something from here. There you go. You're ready to go. And you could technically roll on it, but it's like you are, in the fantasy, it starts you out with like, where you're from, why you left, what is your goal, and that's it. There's your narrative choices, and you're done. And I think if you can keep it limited to those 3 things, you could literally just hand out cards to your players. And I dare say you could even simplify it further than that, especially if you wanted to create a really thing. I talked to you about this once where I would say, here are the defaults. Someone's going to be the jock, someone's going to be the nerd, someone's going to be the prep, someone's going to be the outcast,
goth.
Yep. And someone is going to be the sport. There you go. Here's your 5 character. Everybody grab one. Who wants to be what? There's only one, right? And then on top of that, someone's going to be rich, someone's going to be poor, someone's going to be the thief, someone's going to be like the hoarder, someone's going to... Okay, now pick one of these cards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And boom, there you go. Now, you could have the prep, who is also poor. You could also have the jock, who is, a glutton,
mm-hmm.
And all of these things, because now you have feelings instantaneously ironed out, and you could just have those as like drawing straws.
Yeah.
And I love those types of things, especially when you're doing something quick. So yeah, I totally think you could go with standard tropes, like just pick 6 standard tropes
mm-hmm.
for characters, pick 6 standard failings for characters, and present those, and then let the players come up with their concepts that follow up with that. Because I think that alone would give enough narrative flavor to let them do the rest.
Well, I got nothing to add.
So
that was a far more complete answer than I'd have ever given.
It felt good to say it. So
no, great. Go off, man. You got a microphone.
Yeah, I got a microphone, and you don't. The second one is, as GMs, what have been your greatest successes in running session zeros? I'm going to pause there for a second and think. Relaxed atmosphere with a quick pitch, or some kind of flair hype up the story. What has gone well for you?
I think the greatest successes I've had in running session zeros is just that moment where your players get it. You walk in with a pitch because you as the storyteller are excited about telling a certain type of story.
Yeah.
Or running a certain type of system,
Yeah.
And your players all come into it like just absolute babes in the woods, staring at you like, okay, what are we doing?
I'm interested.
What is
this?
I'm here.
Right.
Obviously, I want to play with you, but like, this is all new to me,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
What's your vision? Where are we going with this? And you lay out your pitch,
mm-hmm.
your Star Wars crawl, as you call it, and that discussion starts slowly trickling in of like, okay, I could play a character that's like this, and what if they've got this quirk or this motivation or something like that? And you get that one other player at the table who goes, oh, and if you do that,
mm-hmm.
and suddenly it starts cascading.
Yes.
What if my character's your character's sister, and
right.
And boom, 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 and you get that moment where you as the storyteller sit back, and it's like being a chef, and you've served dinner to your friends,
mm-hmm.
and at that one critical moment where everybody's halfway, 3/4 of the way through the meal, plates are kind of done, and you just sit back and you just look at smiling faces and bright, inspired discussion all happening, and you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
And you're just listening to everybody else talk about how great your game is going to be because all this inspiration is happening.
Yeah.
That's my success story. When you make that happen, you know your session one's going to be great.
Yeah. Or
regardless of what happens further.
Yeah, I will say one of the ones that I got to see from you was watching the turn from D&D to Savage Worlds and seeing the light bulbs come on in players who had never touched or seen the system.
Mm-hmm.
Like Vicky going turned on and like watching what her character could do.
Yeah.
Watching a few of the other players like, this doesn't matter anymore? Oh my god, this is so much nicer.
Yeah.
And just feeling the difference in the excitement.
The crunch is gone. I can just do the thing my character does and to be awesome at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
not?
That kind of a thing. I think for one of the ones that I had a really good success for was when I was pitching my Children of Heroes to you guys, I gave you character sheets.
Yeah.
I started things out by giving you children because I was starting you off at the henchman level. Like it wasn't even legitimately a 7C game. You were all henchmen. But I watched how quickly you guys took those sheets and made them your own.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that was wonderful to watch.
What you gave us was mostly filled out character sheets and then told us we had an allotment of dots to drop onto them.
Right.
And I was like, wait a minute, firearms are rare but very scary in here. Yeah, okay, I'm putting 3 dots in firearms right off the bat.
Yeah.
Everybody else goes to sword schools. I want black powder.
Yeah. Yep.
You know?
And in many ways, that happened for all of the characters.
Yeah.
Like, it really did change everything. But it also started you guys immediately talking to each other about your characters and who you were at the school, how you guys got to know each other, things like that. And it was funny how quickly you were starting to create NPCs for me.
Yeah.
As well. And I could just sit back and I just kind of let you guys, and I'm making little notes and just accepting that this is the way things are going to go. And it was fun to watch that.
Yeah.
And it's those moments. It's when I think for both of it, it's the same thing. It's when the game leaves your control.
Yeah.
When it begins to breathe its first breath of life into the players, and you can just sit back and watch the game be played in the session 0.
Yeah.
That's when you know you've got your moment.
Sean had a moment like that the other day too. He's not here at a mic to say this, but I'm going to prop him right here.
Okay.
He was I think he got done talking to you via Discord, or no, it was maybe you or his brother or something like that, who wanted to have a special discussion with him about their character because they had some cool ideas that they come up with all on their own, unprompted by him. And he came out of it was his brother, and then he came out of the computer room into the living room to see me curled up on the couch with the Nova Praxis book.
Yep.
Going, baby, I can do all sorts of cool things with my powers. And there was this moment where he just looked at me, and he's not prone to crying, but like spiritually he wept a tear, you know?
Yeah.
It was just that moment of like, I am so happy right now that like people are doing enthusiastic things about my game, you know?
Yeah.
He had that moment. It was great to see it. It was so great to see it for him, you know?
And you want that. Like, as a storyteller for another storyteller, like stepping into this, I want Sean to have a good experience as a storyteller. I want him to learn because every story is a growth.
He's like, I feel like Rob is getting frustrated. I'm like, no, but he's asking questions, you know? And he's like, no, I know I can. I just don't want him to be frustrated with the questions. Is all like,
no.
But he's asking the questions because he's interested and he wants to, you know, he wants to be into this.
It's one of the hardest parts about being a storyteller in another game. Like, I'm trying to remember who it was, but it was it was a short on YouTube that was a much longer discussion, and he was saying, like, just, create whatever character you want. Like, no, tell me about your story. I want to be in your story.
I think it was Brendan Lee Mulligan.
It was.
He's very much like us, where he's like, because he's a storyteller, because he's got dozens of characters just living rent free in his head at any given time. He's like, I can pluck a character out of nowhere to fill whatever gap in your group or your story needs to be there.
Well, I don't even think it's a gap. I just feel that, like, sometimes, like, I want to be in your story. I don't want to be an edge or an outlier.
Well, right. Yeah. But what I mean is, like, is there a theme that you want to be in your story that is not being expressed with the current cast of characters that I could make that would have complications with that particular theme and allow you to explore it?
Yes.
Yes. That's,
like, let me grind a little bit here and smile. Like, no, just make whatever you want. Shut up and tell me.
Sean really wants transhumanism and that question of, like, what is the human soul? What is the nature of being human and a living being? What does that mean in a world where our souls are digitized and we can wear whatever body like a sleeve that we want, or not wear a body, in my character's case,
Try to avoid your body at all costs.
What is that? And so, like, I, as a transgender woman, am thinking to myself, like, what would a future for someone like me be? Someone who does experience, a good amount of, like, bodily dysphoria, and whatnot. What is, in a world where your psyche is disconnected from the flesh that it is attached to, what of that trauma do you bring with you no matter what body you're in? What is your relationship with even having a body to begin with?
Yeah, what is your connection? And how much are you willing to sacrifice of that connection?
Right.
Yeah.
So, it's making a character that asks those questions and maybe carries some of that baggage and has her own friction within that world, and explores those themes.
Yeah, and meanwhile, like, we've got a cast of people who are all along different edges of that spectrum.
Yeah.
And it's neat. Like, I could easily see it, and I was like, oh, okay, I see this, I see that. Okay, we've got all of these pieces. Let's see how we can play with this.
We've got the Mad Elves character who is he wanted to explore what existing as, in that sort of sim space was like if something malfunctioned with it. And his character was, like, eternally on fire for 50 years in virtual space. We have another character, Ela May's character, who was an Instagram influencer, essentially, before going into cryosleep, and then when we kind of woke up in the future, said, oh, wait a minute, I can have whatever body I want. I will take 7.
Yes.
One for every day of the week.
Yeah, do they come in a multi-pack?
One for whatever mood that strikes my fancy.
Yeah, and what does it mean to just be able to change your skin like your clothes?
Yeah, we've got Sean's brother's character is very much of, like, oh, wait a minute, my body can be a mutable machine that can be custom built to do a variety of tasks. Cool, I'm in. Here's my job order. And built it like a computer off of Newegg.
Yeah. And then what does it mean to take care of that?
And exactly.
Like, how far are you willing to ship yourself?
And then there's the bond with my character. My character did not want a body because of crippling dysphoria as a trans woman. And just does not like being viewed by people because that's a major trauma trigger for her. That never ended well for her. We show up in the future, and transphobia is pretty much gone because, gender is meaningless in a world where you can wear different bodies like sleeves, but purism became a thing of, like, are you digitized or are you your original flesh and blood meat? And that became a thing, and since she's not, there's a new brand of,
Yeah, and there's laws against not being in a sleeve.
There's a new brand of transphobia. It's just, are you purist or are you, or are you digitized? And so it's like same hate, different day.
Yeah.
For her. So she just has a bond with James's character who's like, can I just live in your head and just no one will ever talk to me or make me have a body or anything like that.
Yeah.
And he took her in like a stranded kitten,
I'm still trying to figure out what my character's transhumanism is. Like where he sits. So it's going to take me a little while to figure out. I don't think we need to workshop it right now because there's a lot to go after.
And you know what? I don't think you need to. Mm-mm. There's enough on the table already that if that's not something that's important to your character story, I don't think it needs to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's good to see that there are all these layers to it already coming out just from the session 0, you know? We haven't played a single session yet.
No, it's wonderful.
It's great.
And that's what you want. You want the story to slightly slip away from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And enjoy that slipping. That's a hard thing to enjoy sometimes.
As the storyteller, that's kind of what you... Because during your session 0, like, you put out your pitch, but what you get back from that is a cast of characters that all bring their own baggage with them, and it's from that baggage you plant the seeds of your first plot.
And by the way, hang on to that baggage very lightly because it can change at any moment.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. We have gone so far.
We really have.
What we usually do here.
I will say this. We have kind of an exciting thing for next week's topic. Even though we're just doing a system spotlight, we are doing a system spotlight that literally is kickstarting the day before. We have Nations and Cannons, which is the year is 1776. The British are coming, and the Continental Army is calling for heroes to win the day. That is what this is about. This is the opening of America in a historical RPG, where you're in a cast of your players are in a cast of heroes of the time, working through all of what is going on and through those moments in history. And I look at this and I was like, first off, I've never done historical RPGs.
I never have either.
The closest I've gotten is 7th Sea, which kind of does that. Like the plots are there. But to have this historical kind of redcoat thing, I was like, ooh, I'm intrigued. And it's a 5th edition supplement. So it's using 5th edition rules. And it's got black powder, which people ask for all the time. Like, how can I bring guns into 5th edition? Take a look at this. Get into this and get a feeling for it.
And Revolutionary War is not a setting you see all the time. So you do not have the market saturation of, a lot of other settings. Yeah.
But it's funny that this is the inception. This is where tabletop game came from, was historical miniature combat and having the story behind it.
Feels like a return to roots, yeah.
I know, I love it.
Yeah.
Lastly, Pat Mooney is going to join us, the creative director.
That's great.
So we're going to have a guest here talking about it. You'll be able to ask questions. He's currently in our Discord as well. By all means, please ask questions and get yourself in for next week. If you can, throw some questions in our... I'll get the questions thing up quickly so you guys can start throwing questions at it. But we would love to be able to have a lot for Pat and a lot of excitement so that we can enjoy next week's show. I expect it to go along with the way we're going to discuss things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm very excited to see it, and I'm very excited for them to get this released. So,
all right, and before we wrap up, just just a big shout out to our sponsor, Sons of the Singularity.
Yes.
Looking forward to the Blessed and the Blasphemous Kickstarter starting up in the
next
couple days.
We'd love to have you guys grab the links off our site. You'll be able to get to the Kickstarter there and give it a follow at the very least. Check it out, see what their offers. I think you'll be very happy with what you'll see.
Absolutely. All right, you can find us on Twitter at @ST_Conclave, on Instagram at @ST_Conclave. Listen to us live every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on mixlr.com/storyteller-conclave. And once again, join us up on our Discord. You can find that link on our Twitter as well as our website, storytellerconclave.com.
We'd like to thank our Patreon members who support us every single month, especially our name members, Nox in the Pocket, Sedjet, Sam, The Arcane Asylum, Sparkle Motion, Veteran, Hulavu, and Sean. We truly appreciate all your support. Our pre-show music is by Arcane Anthems. You can find them at patreon.com/arcaneanthems or on Instagram. Our intro music is Beyond the Warriors by Geefrog. You can find that at geefrog.bandcamp.com or in Google Music. And our outro music, which you're hearing right now, is Only Our Footprints in the Sand by Mater Machine. You can find them at freemusicarchive.org.
And a big shout out, as always, to our families, Vicky and Sean. Thank you so much for loving and supporting us. All of our friends who've sat at our tables over the years to give us these great stories to share with you. And you, every single one of our listeners. We love you guys so much.
Love you guys.
Good night.
Good night.